Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian at Whisper Status 74. Welcome to the community, welcome to the channel. If this is the first time you are seeing me, please consider liking and subscribing. We are real tech for real people. Today's video is going to be one that I don't want to make or love to make, as we're talking about the C9 and the lack of upgrading their FreeSync. Now, before we get into the article that we're going to reference, which is from PC Gamer, as well as from Forbes. Forbes article was August 2nd. The PC Gamer article was today. We'll link those together. We'll go through them together. We've done these kind of videos in the past where we go right to the actual article. We'll read it through together. And that way we don't take what we want or don't want from the article. We will discuss after my thoughts on it and then your thoughts in the comments. The reason why I want to do this video is, one, we've known this for a few weeks now. After the CX was upgraded with FreeSync, many people with the C9 could not wait for that to happen, and unfortunately it's not going to happen. So I've known this for a while, but at the same time did not have concrete information on it, and I had heard that they weren't going to upgrade some other things. We'll talk about that in the wrap-up. But this is getting to be a troubling trend, and I'm going to go after Samsung here as well with their Q90, and we'll talk about that in the wrap-up. But this whole thing of not updating your displays from earlier is a troubling trend. It makes it very difficult for many of you guys who look for that deal and buy displays now from last year or even 2 years ago. But more importantly, for those of you that just bought the C9 or even the Q90R, they're different subjects. The Q90R is more about their game mode. We'll talk about that in the wrap up. But you're saying, I just bought a C9, or I bought a C9 when the CX came out. They were about the same price. There was a lot of fear mongering in regards to 48 gigabytes per second versus 40. There was a ton about the CX being a downgrade. A lot of people rushed out and bought the C9 based on a lot of that hate and a lot of that fear mongering in regards to full bandwidth. And unfortunately, it might backfire a little bit. Do I think it's a huge big deal? I don't. Many of you will. So we're going to try and keep things as neutral as we can as we read the articles. We'll do a wrap-up at the end of my thoughts, and I'll see your thoughts in the comments. Now, I'm not a fan of delivering bad news. Some people love to do that. They love to tell you that the display you have is garbage. My goal with this channel is to get you the best display for you. Whether it's a couple years old, whether it's a Vizio, a Hisense, it doesn't matter to me what you buy. I want you to be happy, and more importantly, I want you to be happy with what you already have. That's why it pains me to do videos like this, is many of you have these displays. Now, I imagine this would pertain to NanoCell going forward, or any of the HDMI 2.1 displays. This covers not just the C9, but the B9. But this not upgrading your displays from manufacturers is something that's getting to be terrible, terrible trend in this industry. Let's read the articles and we'll do a wrap-up at the end. All right, guys, we are now behind the camera. We will read this article in its entirety. I know it's a little bit long to do, and we'll reference the Forbes article as well. This is from Paul Lilly at PC Gamer. LG is not planning to update its 2019 OLED TVs to support FreeSync. Now, it doesn't really delineate FreeSync Premium from FreeSync Super or all these different FreeSyncs that are out there. I imagine, they don't mention it here, that you'll have the same VRR that you currently have on your Xbox and hopefully PS5. That's what we're hoping, is that even though you won't have FreeSync, you will have that form of FreeSync being VRR, which they don't mention here, but I'm hoping that that's still the case. Okay, owners of LG 2019 OLED TVs have been holding out hope that a software update would add FreeSync support to their displays, as had recently been done on the company's 2020 CX and GX models. Alas, it won't be happening. At this point, we don't have plans to support this feature for the 2019 models, LG confirmed in a statement to Forbes. We'll go over the Forbes article in a second. FreeSync is AMD's take on adaptive sync, which dynamically synchronizes the refresh rate between a compatible display and graphics card. This results in a smoother gaming experience by eliminating screen tears, a type of visual artifact that can occur when the refresh rate between a GPU and display are not in total sync. Many of us know that already, but we'll just keep reading. LG's decision to leave its 2019 OLED models withering in the wind with regards to FreeSync support is mildly surprising, given how much attention it has paid to gaming. However, its 2019 models are still some of the best gaming TVs around. That is very important in this conversation. They are still amazing for gaming. While FreeSync support is not bound for last year's lineup, those models still have support for similar G-Sync technology. Unfortunately, G-Sync is for PC. They also offer a native 120Hz refresh rate and importantly are equipped with the latest HDMI 2.1 standard. So that leads me to believe that we're just still talking about the same VRR that we currently already have. HDMI 2.1 offers some nifty features for gaming, built-in support for variable refresh rates. So even though LG's 2019 lack FreeSync support, they can still benefit from next generation graphics cards, which they care about, we don't care about, with HDMI 2.1 support as well as both the consoles. We do care about though. Those consoles will also support FreeSync, but I imagine the experience will be similar either way. What they're trying to say there is we'll still have what we have in regards to VRR, variable refresh rate. You just won't have that FreeSync premium moniker or whatever they've been upgraded to, but just they're not going to upgrade them. In the auto low latency mode, all it does is switch it into game mode for me, so that's not a big deal. So we'll go up to the Forbes article real quick and see if it tells us anything different. All right, here we are. LG confirms. This is John Archer from Forbes. Confirms 2019 OLED TVs won't get key gaming feature. Recently gained firmware update, this is the 2020s, a key new gaming feature that's the brand 2019 sets don't have, support for AMD FreeSync variable refresh rate system. This led to much speculation among 2019 owners about, about whether FreeSync support might end up being rolled out to their TVs too. However, LG's product planning team has now confirmed to me that this is not going to happen. LG's 2019 OLEDs do support G-Sync variable refresh rate system, but confirmation that they will not be getting FreeSync as well has come as a blow to LG's 2019 OLED owners who game on PCs with FreeSync capable graphics cards and or FreeSync capable Xbox One S, X, and the upcoming Xbox Series X consoles. It's important to remember at this point that LG has a proud reputation of arguably doing more to cater for console and PC gamers than any of its TV brand rivals. This is important. Since 2019, for instance, LG has ensured that all 4 HDMI ports on its OLED TVs have been able to handle such gaming features as NVIDIA HDMI 2.1 VRR, automatic low latency mode, switching, and 4K feeds at 120 frames per second. By comparison, even in its 2020, its TV rivals either only offer such features on 1 or 2 models in their ranges or only support them on 1 or 2 HDMI ports rather than all 4. It may well too that precious few games end up appearing on the current or next generation gaming platforms that might make serious use of the FreeSync VRR system, which I believe they're AMD GPUs, but okay. LG 2019 OLEDs may also take some solace from the way the HDMIs in their support full 48 gigabits bandwidth capacity of the HDMI 2.1 standard, while LG's 2020s have settled on 40 gigabytes per second. Though, as I discussed this in a separate article on the unexpected change in LG's HDMI approach for 2020, the extra 8 gigabytes per second is only useful for carrying a 12-bit video at a time when there are currently no 12-bit TVs. It's not clear from LG's statement whether its 2019 OLEDs simply aren't capable of handling FreeSync VRR or whether or not adding FreeSync support to them is a commercial decision, which I would guess. I guess LG 2019 OLED owners might find a glimmer of hope in the first 3 words of this line from LG's statement. At this point. So hopefully going forward. We don't have plans to support this feature on 2019 models. For the most part, though, I'd have to say the tone of response feels pretty final. Okay guys, here's the discussion part of the video. We read both articles. They were very similar. One basically having the same information as the other from Forbes. What I don't like about this approach from manufacturers is upgrading one and not the other. In terms of having the CX have this upgrade, they should have been rolled out together. They're very similar. The C9 is only, and the B9 are only last year's models. They're not C6s or C7s. They're not from 5 years ago. They're recent. People are still buying these displays as we speak. We're going to jump quickly to Samsung here for a second. The Q90R was my favorite LED last year by a wide margin. It's a display I recommended to many people. It is their flagship 4K model. Many of us have not been super happy with Samsung's 4K models this year. Not because they're not any good, but because they seem to take a step back spec-wise. Here's the challenge. With the Q90T, for instance, it had fixed some of the issues that the Q90 had in regards to what Samsung did with one of their updates, which was, in my opinion, to lower input lag and make game mode faster and more competitive with, say, monitors. They also ruined the picture quality a little bit in regards to its backlight. Now the Q90T, though it is closer to the Q80R from last year, has a better image in some ways due to that simple update that they could easily do on the Q90. But they won't. Not because they can't or they shouldn't. I just don't think they can be bothered. It's last year's model. Let's move on. That's very unfortunate, as many of you guys buy displays from last year. At times they are better. They are also more affordable. Now, to me, not upgrading those displays is something that they should never do. My idea for Samsung, which should be a separate video, is you should have a game mode. This is for all these companies. Have a game mode, which is your lowest input lag, similar to Vizio with their HDMI 5. It's the quickest. And then have a cinema game mode, where you are allowed to alter the picture quality. Maybe have a higher input lag, but leave the picture quality alone. Samsung Q90 is a gorgeous display. Don't alter the picture quality. Go back and update that display. But they're not, and that's the trend that I'm not loving from these manufacturers. It makes it hard for us to recommend what you buy, and I want you to be happy. I don't care if you buy something from 3 years ago. I just want you to have the best display you possibly can. That's more difficult when this happens. Now, I mentioned fear-mongering in regards to HDMI 2.1 with the LG C9. Why is that important? Well, that information was out there in the comments. The CX was a step back. Other websites, information, articles, it's a travesty. Though many of us said very early on, it's 12-bit, it's a 10-bit panel, don't worry, the CX is not a drop back. Some of you guys actually brought back your CX to buy a C9. What I found interesting at the time was the C9 wasn't down in price. They were virtually the same price, which is a little fishy to me that LG, I think, felt like they knew that, but they kept them at the same price. The C9 immediately was the superior display. Everyone out and got that, even though there are some improvements to the CX. But right away, that information about the HDMI 2.1, the bandwidth, made people make that decision. And now it's not going to be upgraded to FreeSync. Do I feel it's a big deal? To me, it's personally not a big deal for one simple reason. One, G-Sync will still be there, but for a lot of you guys that are going to be console, which is the majority of this channel, you're looking at the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. We hope that has, even if it's the same level of VRR that the Xbox One X currently enjoys. I don't know that. I mean, we don't know that. The problem is we have promised features, whether it's on Sony's displays coming out, whether it's on, the receivers coming out, also having one HDMI input per, it's a weird time to buy right now. But the C9 should have been, and the B9 to an extent, should have been your safe choice. It should have been something you bought and just say, forget it. Now, in regards to them not updating the FreeSync, it is a big deal to many of you. Many of you are very caught up on FreeSync Pro and Premium, and to me it doesn't matter, but to many of you it does matter. G-Sync, a form of FreeSync on the console, will be absolutely fine. I didn't update the CX to the new FreeSync. Mine's currently still at VRR. I don't like updating my displays. When I get my new display, I'll upgrade this one as my reference. and we'll see what those updates do. But I don't mess with the updates. Both of them, all my displays in this room are offline. They don't get any updates at all. I don't want them altering them until I know what's in them. But what about the upgrading part that I find disturbing is we're all still waiting for them to continue to update the CX on the crushed blacks or on the raised blacks, which I haven't had on my CX as it hasn't been updated. Not out of the box either. So they're also probably not going to update the C9 with that either. And that's troubling. That is a picture quality issue. That is a software issue. It's not a display issue. So I heard that rumor over a month ago that they weren't going to update the C9 anymore, other than operating system and some of those features with apps and things of that nature. I hope that's not true. This video is not to fearmonger. It's not to make you upset with your C9. C9 is amazing, but that whole tale of 48 gigabytes making people freak out before the facts were out and making people buy decisions. If you had a C9 or you bought a C9, they're amazing. It's still incredible. There's no issues with it at all in regards to that. But it's kind of our responsibility on these channels to not scare you into making decisions or making you feel bad about the decisions you already made. This video is not at all to tell you the C9 is not as good as the CX or any of the other displays out there. The C9 to me is still wonderful. It's an amazing display. The picture quality is awesome on it. It's got still more features than anybody else in many ways. But that whole dialogue of it's superior to this one or that one because of one or two options or promised options can get you in trouble and get you buying something that you might not want or need. So the C9 going forward, it's going to be hard to recommend in that regard. It's going to be hard for someone who's going to say to me after this video or in the upcoming videos, C9 versus CX. Well, if the FreeSync Premium is that important to you, or FreeSync in general, you're going to have to go with the CX. I don't like having that line in the sand. The C9 OLEDs, as far as I'm concerned, all look very similar to one another. Sony's line, LG's line, they look very similar. Having these features given to one, not the other, I think is terrible. And I think it's something that's only going to happen more and more. What's going to happen with AV receivers? They're not going to update the ports. They're not. It's just something that we can't have. You know, a lot of us like to buy a year later, Black Friday. The best part about buying last year's displays is sometimes, again, they're better. They look better. And it's been that trend, especially with LEDs. LEDs, in my opinion, the Q9FN, the Z9D, in my opinion, a lot of the LEDs can't touch them. They're still my favorite displays. So you should be able to go back, maybe not go back and buy those. They're rather old. But you know what I'm saying? Let me choose. Don't take features away or not update them. You're capable of updating them. So I'm sorry for the rant in this video. This is a rather long video to mean for it to be this long. Again, the C9 is still awesome. I wouldn't sweat it, but it's something that is troubling in this industry that they're not updating that feature. Is it a huge big deal? I'm going to keep saying this. I don't think it's a big deal. I think you're still going to have that baseline variable refresh rate, which is super confusing, that you already enjoy on the Xbox One X and the Xbox One in general. I think you're still going to have that, but I can't speak to that on the PS5. They don't have it on the PS4 or the Pro. I don't know what they're going to have, but I would hope they have some form of that. All right, guys, I'm sorry if this is bad news for you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, no fear-mongering. I'm not interested in destroying people's day or delivering terrible news, but I did want to cover this in a more level way versus coming out and telling people that this is garbage and that is garbage. I do not do that here. I don't love that in the comments. That is not the kind of channel and community that I have here. Thank you so much for being part of the family and for listening. I just think it's an unfortunate trend that I think is going to happen more and more. In the meantime, on signing off, when you have companies like LG, Sony, and Samsung, then I'm going to leave you guys with this. So LG, you have the big three. LG, Sony, Samsung. LG is doing this, right? Hey, you know, we're not going to update the C9, even though it is probably the best-selling display they've ever had, probably the best display they've ever had. Didn't really drop the price on it all that much. It's still expensive. They're like, nah, we're going to not do HDMI 2.1 with 48 gigabytes. So they created, whether it was justified or not, they created this confusion, which made their C9 sell better. People went out and bought the C9. I do know the numbers. I do know how they sell in all these locations. I do talk to a lot of people that know these numbers. The C9 sold out after all of that. Samsung, and we're not going to update those displays either. And we're going to do one HDMI 2.1 port, even on our 8K lineup. Why? You have two consoles coming out. People have PCs. Why? Sony, you're not going to offer it at all. Well, yeah, on the 900H, but not on your 950H or any of your OLEDs until 2021 when you decide to release the A9G successor or whatever. It's making it harder for you guys to choose. It makes it harder for me to choose. None of these panels are perfect. They all have their issues, but having to choose because of specs or promise specs is a real problem, because many of you are having to choose for specs but not picture quality. And how can I argue that if you're going to utilize it? If you're a gamer, this is bad news. It shouldn't be terrible news, but it is. And it's going to give other people more ammo to put you down. If you have a C9, don't listen to any of that garbage. The display is amazing. It's perfectly fine, but this is a very troubling thing. And if you have a company like TCL, Vizio, Hisense, these companies that everybody kills, TCL is going to update their displays, their HDMI 2.0 displays to HDMI 2.1. So it's hard to have these big three not be held accountable. All right, guys, thank you as always. I will see you in the comments. I hope all is well. Again, I'm sorry if this video was a bit of a rant. I will talk to you soon. Take care.